Good evening and happy Divine Mercy Sunday to all of you. Glad that you're all here, and I'm glad that I am here. So last week we had the Holy Week, the Easter celebrations, and it's quite a lot of busyness and activity for a priest. And I get to follow that up this weekend with confirmations, and that's one of the seven sacraments for us here in Catholic land. And in our diocese, we have combined our confirmation and first Holy Communion celebrations. And so that's usually in about third grade when kids receive both their confirmations and first Holy Communion. Now, as the bishop secretary, it is my job to drive him around to get him to the various churches that we're doing confirmations at, which means that I get to have a bit of a higher level view of our diocese. I get to see more variety than I would just in the one parish that I am in, as I was in the first 3 years of my priesthood. And then you start to get to the point where you're like, oh, that's how that works here. Oh, that's how they did that. And the biggest contrast I can find from all of these various parishes is how well these kids have been prepared. For a third grader, something like confirmation and first Holy Communion celebration is a rather stressful event. They're usually made to wear, the young ladies are usually wearing a white dress. The gentlemen are wearing a pair of slacks and a tie and a nice shirt, sometimes even a jacket or a suit coat on top of that. So that's not the way that they're accustomed to dressing. And then they have to behave in a somewhat more formal and ritual manner than they are accustomed to. And so it's just a little bit different for them. And you shouldn't just throw, let's say, a third grader into such a scenario. They should be properly prepared. Now, most places will do a rehearsal for this, getting them ready to receive communion, getting them comfortable to it. But sometimes you go to places and you find that people are not properly prepared, that the kids just look lost, they're fumbling around. And, it just gets me thinking a little bit. What we're doing is not that terribly difficult. It's simple enough where we should be able to train at least most of 8-year-olds, most of a group of 30 of 8-year-olds to do this pretty well. They're not going to be experts at it. We don't need expertise, but to basically be able to follow the right thing. There's always going to be that one kid who doesn't pay attention to everything and just kind of crashes and bashes their way through life. Um, but most of them should be properly prepared. And that makes me wonder, what is it that the priests who were responsible for preparing these kids for, what was it that they were really caring about when they were preparing to have the bishop come into their parish? What was it that there was their priority? It may be the case that they're stressed out, that they're overworked, they're overwhelmed, and aren't really able to handle things the way that they might like to. But it could also be the case that they are not loving the correct things. They aren't caring enough about the proper administration of the sacraments to do what's basically their job. I'm not in a position to judge any particular priest that I've seen in my diocese on this account, but I do sit there and wonder. And then I look back at myself and I think, well, that question that question is actually a decent troubleshooting question. Anytime I find something going wrong, what am I caring about? Is this something where I am not looking at the right things? Is that why things are not working out the way that I do? Sort of like when you're troubleshooting a computer, the first thing that people tell you is, well, have you tried turning off the device and turning it back on? That's a really useful thing that you can do in order to kind of clear out the memory and get a fresh boot of Windows going. Oftentimes, whatever funky thing that was happening in the memory is resolved pretty clearly by just turning the computer off and on again. So maybe you can find this to be a useful tool. Maybe when you are finding something not working out the way that you were hoping and intending for it, have you tried loving the correct things? Is your heart really in the right place? And that will always be compatible with this. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and all your strength. And you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And speaking of neighbors, I would very much enjoy some of you to be neighborly. I do, if you're unfamiliar to me, I do ask to have the webcams on. Just, if you're going to do something nasty, people see your face before you do it. Uh, so, yeah, here we are. It's Sunday evening, and I don't really have the capacity to talk to myself for 2 hours straight. So I hope one of you people, and I can see that there's a few watching, will join me and tell me if I'm caring about the right things by doing this every Sunday night. We have about 29 different confirmations that we're going to do this year. And it's all about trying to care for the right things. Hello, how are you?
Hello. I am okay. What I like your topic. Although I didn't I was like, is he gonna get to the loving part? He hasn't even mentioned the word yet.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but what how do you go about doing that would be the question. Like what do you think is the how do you determine what that thing is?
Yeah, well, that is the question right there, isn't it? That is the next good follow-up question right there. I mean, you can kind of think of your life in terms of what what you're obligated to do, and like maybe start there. So, certainly worshiping God, that's your top priority right there. And then attending to your family, attending to proper care for yourself, attending to important things in your life, and then kind of working your way down the list. There's ways of prioritizing those things where uh, you can um, you can have them working out just fine. I don't know. And then just comparing it to perhaps somebody that you admire and the way that they do things. That might be a good way to reset those priorities and to love what they love.
Hmm. So the exemplification trick.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know how much of me is me just doing what my dad did, but a lot of people say, but that when they see us in a room together, they're like, "Oh, that's how that worked." So
Apples and trees, huh?
something like that. Something like that. I definitely could have fallen off a worse tree. That's for sure.
Well, and I think that's always the big theme in my opinion, but what's been a big theme lately is the discernment. Like, how do you know? How do you know you're doing it right? How do you know, how do you know what to pay attention to, right? All those hierarchies are right
And
there.
and some of the discernment's actually really simple. So we've got this idea, at least in Catholic moral theology, of a negative moral norm. Thou shalt not. And if you go on the other side of that thou shalt not, and you are not in alignment with the good, you're not doing with what a good person would do, you're not giving glory to God by your actions. And so it's nice having that framework of like, okay, if I cross on the other line of that, I know I've committed a sin. And but then there's also the positive moral norms. You should do this, you should do that, and with a few exceptions, it's not like one of the positive normal norm is moral norm is feeding the poor, right? You should,
Mhm.
try and contribute to the welfare of the poor. The thing is, you can't do that at all times.
Right.
So it's like you have to balance that out with many other things. And so that's actually, and I actually see this kind of a difference between what we could call more progressive folks and more traditional conservative folks is the traditional conservative types tend to focus more on the negative moral norms, people going on the wrong side of the law, whereas at least rhetorically, I'm not sure inside their hearts, people who tend to be a little more progressive seem to be more about uh, we need to be doing this for people, we need to be doing that for people, and maybe sometimes they're right, but it can be
Yeah.
it can be difficult to discern that.
Yeah, well, I think the fundamental difference is it's more, we'll say, moral, or ethically tenable to tell people what not to do because it's a lot clearer,
Mm-hmm, hmm.
right? But it's less so to tell people what to do,
Hmm.
especially with respect to like you're not a good person unless, right? Or the
Yeah.
world isn't perfect unless, and that actually is a very left right divide.
Mhm,
Right, where it's not that nobody tells the other side what to do or something like that, it's that it's the things they say, right? It's like, "Oh, don't do that," right?
mhm,
And it's cast the other way, it's cast as a restriction, but actually, uh, the restriction is in the people telling you, what to do, right? Because
mhm,
they're telling you how to allocate your time, energy, and attention, and which order it should go in.
mhm, mhm,
Whereas on the other side of the register, the people who will say aren't so progressive are just telling you, no, no, don't do that. Right.
mhm.
And the reason why that's more tenable is because you really could kind of screw up the world and we're kind of in it with you. So, like, nah.
That's why, people talk about, "Oh, the church is all full of rules," but, like, in terms of your day-to-day living, there's only 5 that you have to follow. That's go to church on Sundays, confess your mortal sins at least once a year, receive communion at least once a year, observe the pathetically easy fast and abstinence days of the church calendar, and as you can, support the mission of the church materially.
Right. Yeah.
It's
That's
like,
all low bar.
yeah, right. And so that list is commonly called the 5 precepts of the church. There's more to it, but like in terms of that, like those 5 things that you have to do, that's about it.
Okay. So, I mean, all I have to say to that is help, help. I'm being oppressed. Yeah. It's not, well, it is. It's pretty easy there. But
Yeah.
help,
Yeah.
help, I'm being oppressed. Yeah, and I think, well, I'm a high bar person, so I'm a little miffed at the at the low bar there. Come
Well,
on, Catholic.
like in terms of what we can actually ask of everybody, that's amazing. Because the Catholic Church is for here comes everybody. That's Catholicism for you.
Right, right. And it's sort of cast exactly backwards. But yes.
I'm going to sit there and encourage you to do more, but I'm not going to say that you're falling short if you're not beating that. Like, I don't know, maybe you're just really not very capable of doing things, and it's all you can to meet those 5 basic things and keep a job. And if that takes all of your energy, well, the Lord isn't going to do anything magnificent through you, and maybe that's okay because he has his overachievers. They're called saints, and they tend to get most of the work done for him.
That is true. Yeah, yeah, we're really missing saints is not a good thing.
but yeah, like a saint that really inspires you can be the one who helps you to readjust your loves and to care more about the right things.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, by exemplifying it, and
Mm,
that's what you need, that exemplification. It can't be word alone or book alone or something crazy. That's just nuts.
mhm,
Because you don't know how to interface with the words,
mhm.
right? You gotta have words are low information. Nobody likes that. It was one of the early appeals that you heard, um, a lot was, "Oh, their vocabulary is limited to the 10,000 words of the Bible." I don't know if the Bible only has 10,000 unique words or something, sounds
Hebrews
plausible.
got like all sorts of words that have three ways we could translate it into English.
Right,
So
but the total number of words might be 10,000, and it was the number of words quantity that was being used as a derisive way of
but
relating
most
to those
most people
people.
only have like 4 or 5,000 in them, right?
Oh,
Or
I don't
four or
know. I
five.
don't Yeah, I have no idea what the average. I
Right. So that's
not
something I've
me.
heard where people are doing like, oh, Shakespeare wasn't really Shakespeare. He was actually 14 different people as they do a word count in Shakespeare. And he's got like a vocabulary of 30,000 unique words that he's used in his entire corpus, right? So like he was just an absolute monster in terms of vocab, including coining new words, inventing new words. So I don't know. I'm happy to say that he was a genius, and that was all there is to it. So, um, but yeah, I don't know who are these people that are saying there's only 10,000 words in the Bible, and therefore what?
So according to the googly thing quickly, it's 20 to 35,000 words. An 8-year-old has a 10,000 word vocabulary, and so that
Oh,
would
okay.
apparently be
All
bad.
right, I got the numbers mixed up in
But
my head.
my
I don't get paid to do numbers.
my argument
So
would
then an
be the
8-year-old can
exact.
understand it.
Yeah, yeah. My argument would be the exact opposite, is that the more words that you have, the more junk you filled your head with that you probably don't need. And, and now you can sound wicked smart, but you ain't. So
You talk
there's
about
that.
perichoresis, right? Yeah, that's a $2 word right there. Bet you've never heard perichoresis before.
I have not.
Who's that?
That's impressive. Yeah, who is that?
Who
Thank you,
is
Andrew.
Who is that? Yeah, that's actually probably the correct way to respond to somebody. I mean, if you're in a theology classroom, you can go ahead and talk about perichoresis, but most of us don't need to hear about it. Ah, oh, gosh, these confirmations are a lot of work though, because I gotta fly in there and get the altar servers from like zero to going in like half an hour.
Oh,
And
geez.
half less than half an hour into our live stream, Emma's here. Hello, Emma.
Hello. Oh, it's confirmation season already?
It is confirmation season already, and it will be until middle of May. Uh,
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be
I was
tired
gonna
Father
say,
That's
Greg
wasn't
live
that
streams
fun.
for a
last
while.
week?
yes, yes, it will be. What was that, Andrew? I didn't hear you.
I was gonna say, wasn't that like last week on Easter?
Confirmations,
Easter Vigil?
Easter Vigil. Yeah, yeah, but there's more to it than that. Because
Now we got all the normal kids getting confirmed at the usual time.
yep, these are third grade confirmations.
You do
So
third grade confirmations?
Oh,
short
wow.
order, baby. We're all about that.
I had to wait till I was a junior in high school.
Yeah, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah,
Everywhere?
I don't think that was a good plan. So like, I'm glad, but third grade is really it's probably the youngest I've heard of.
Yeah, so this is what happened, right? In the Middle Ages, they were doing confirmation and first communion together when people were teenagers. They wanted people to
Mhm.
be able to discern the sacrament before they were approaching it. And that was working okay. And then in the early 20th century, Pius X is like, we need more people taking communion, and he was right in those days to say that. So he started. He lowered the age of first communion to about 7, and but confirmation got stranded out of order, right? Because the order for initiations, baptism, confirmation, Holy Communion in the teenage years.
Oh.
But in our diocese, this was 20 years ago. Bishop Aquila shows up and he's like, we're going to do it in third grade now. We're going to do both of it in third grade now." And he was a firm man, and he was able to implement this over a loud chorus of objection that hasn't entirely faded away at this point. And so now they have the grace of confirmation in middle school, which I think is a good idea, because
I
middle
think
school is
that's a good
harder,
idea too.
but maybe you can have that strengthening of the baptismal graces in there.
I definitely didn't love having to wait till almost the end of high school.
But don't they have to like agree to a whole bunch of stuff, kind of like baptism?
Yeah, it's a lot easier when they're in third grade.
I was gonna say, wouldn't it make more sense like when they're older?
Yeah, sure, but look at like nobody can force you to be Catholic or go to mass on Sunday once you get to a certain age. So
Anyway, so
Right.
so it's like you're always
Yeah, I guess
free
so.
to apostatize, and like the fact that you had some oil on your forehead. From your perspective, if you become an atheist, you just add some oil on your forehead really won't change that. So, um, yeah, I don't think it hurts anything. I think it's a great idea. I'm all in favor of it. Grace comes to you regardless of your maturity level and understanding.
Ooh, I like
That's good
that.
news for me.
Yes.
yeah,
It's good news for all.
me too.
It sounds like universal good news, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, you need to get used to Father Eric being kind of tired on Sunday evenings, because some of these are road trips where we're doing 4 confirmations in a weekend, 1 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. And,
Oh man.
like we're staying overnight in towns that are a long ways away.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. So it was only 3 this weekend. But yeah. I've got it easier than the bishop though. He has to go and give his big homily every time. He's got to do all the preaching, and he's got to take photographs afterwards, and I don't have to do any of that. So it makes it easier for me.
You
You're
just
like,
get to quietly manage everything behind the scenes.
Yeah. Quietly is
just-
the right word for it.
I'm just the driver, and then I train the little people to be in the right place, and that's
Yeah.
it. Don't mind me.
It's it's like when I'm going like this, like that means come over here. That doesn't mean just stare at me. I mean come over here. Oh my god. I mean, I'm
Oh.
sure I was like that in 4th grade, but it's just funny. It's just
My
fun.
mom would tell you that I was like that all the way through high school. So
Emma, a young space shot? Inconceivable, I say.
I know you'd never believe it of me now, unless you spent 20 minutes with me all together.
Yes, can confirm.
Is a space shot the same thing as a space cadet?
Yes,
Okay.
roughly speaking.
Roughly speaking. Okay.
Yeah,
Ugh.
the idea of being off in space and not paying attention because you got lost in your own thoughts or something. That
Yeah,
happens to people.
that happens to people. I mean, if you have really interesting thoughts,
Some
it's
people are
really
really
easy.
prone to it, you know?
Yeah.
Some people are not. And some people are like really prone to it.
Yeah, I'm better than I used to be, but
Must have been the
still
grace of
definitely
confirmation.
happens.
It was
Probably
yeah,
part of it.
it was the grace of confirmation. Fixed all your
Finally,
problems.
finally got there in high school. Oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this. Oh
I
my.
didn't even get the bishop.
Oh gosh, you got confirmed by just a regular old presbyter?
Yeah,
What? Outrageous.
because apparently the Archdiocese of Boston is too big, and Cardinal O'Malley was too busy, so
I wouldn't
he
want
just
to be
appointed priests
Shocking.
to do some of the confirmations for him.
rather than auxiliary bishops, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
I didn't realize you were in
Yeah.
Boston. When was that you were in Boston?
I was confirmed in 2015,
Oh, okay.
spring 2015. I wasn't in Boston, but I was in the Archdiocese of Boston. So.
I'm not sure how big, but the city of Boston itself isn't like sprawling. It's
Boston's
pretty
a
tight, right?
tiny city. It's
Yeah.
minute. It's
Yeah.
almost not. It's a walkable city, right? You
Mhm.
go to Boston, walk it in a day, all day. Not a big
Mhm.
deal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those old enough to be like that cities. Not like St. Louis.
Well, it's also constrained, and the people there wanted it that way. And everybody talks about Central Park. It's like, well, where did that come from? Well, the guy who built Central Park, Frederick Law Olmsted, first built the emerald necklace around Boston, which literally constrains the city. You couldn't build the city bigger anyway because it'd be this big ring of no city in the middle, and people just sort of followed that along. A lot of the Puritan money, the Mayflower money and stuff was like, you ain't building the city any bigger than this. So, in fact, for a while, I think they had a moratorium on buildings in the city, like for decades. I think that was one of the mayors. And then they opened that up, and now you don't recognize the place. It's like, what is this? There's all these buildings. They weren't here before. And it was weird too, because it affected Cambridge. So Cambridge wasn't building either. And then they were, and now there's a bunch of junk everywhere. So it's an uglier city now, I assure you.
Well, I do love the city that I live in. It was a mistake to design it around an automobile. Just not good, not good business. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, what can we do? We can just
Yeah.
wait for everything to fall to pieces. I guess
Or we can rebuild
you can rebuild, Andrew.
and
You're the
redesign.
architect here. Is school going well?
Yeah, we actually have a lot of conversations about cars and cities. So that is definitely on the radar of architects.
For or against?
Usually against.
What I thought. That's what I thought. Why would you build a highway when you could build a cathedral or something?
Yeah, I guess we could just build like 100 cathedrals all in a line out to some other place.
When you think
That'd
about
be
the
interesting.
footprint of a major interchange of two interstates, let's say, it's like that's a lot of land.
It takes up so much
Yeah.
space.
It takes up a ton of
Um,
space. And then I end up realizing that the city that I live in, at the center of it, is just a way to get someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
uh-huh.
So there's no actual head to it, right? And as we all on this live stream know, if it doesn't have a head, it doesn't
It's
properly
dead.
exist. Yeah,
Oh.
if it doesn't have a head, it's dead.
Yeah.
You
Not a
nailed it,
thing.
Andrew.
It's not a thing.
No head, you're
Oh.
dead.
I think that a lot of people do things in the city, right? It is supposed to be the center for commerce, right? And a lot of the large cities have like a financial district and an ethnic district or two. Like Boston has
Mhm.
3.
But Fargo was built like probably 90% of the town was built after the introduction of the automobile because we're just such a
Yeah.
new city. And so everything got built according to automobile logic, which is, it's just, I don't know, zoning laws. I think that's what I'm supposed to be
Mhm.
upset about, right? Is zoning laws. This is the housing zone, and this is where people live, and this is the shopping zone.
Oh yeah, the planned.
Yeah,
That all came out of the same period in the U.S. history, by the way.
I'm sure.
It was the
Like
success of the so-called robber barons, including Ford and Edison. They were both and they weren't the only ones, but they were the big names. They were very big on planning,
mhm.
like really big. Like Edison. So, yeah, I think it was Edison and I think he was in bed with J.P. Morgan and Ford or something. But like he went off and his third phase of life, he went off and like they built a mining machine. It was a mobile mining town. So effectively, you put it up against the mountain, it carves up the mountain and does like all the processing in one place as a moving factory. Yes, it was a marvel.
Oh boy.
Right.
It's
But
like
there's
a
all this
steampunk nightmare right there.
exactly. Well, then there's all kinds of stuff like that in history that like nobody knows. Literally nobody has been told, right? Like it's weird outlier stuff, and not that it didn't work, but like it had a time and place, and the extent to which a lot of things rely on the people that invent them to actually keep them moving, which is sort of contrary to, we'll say, more recent ways of thinking, right? Because you got Harvard Business School, where management is a skill, and you teach management independent of the thing you're managing, which is partly true, right? But also, great man theory is there's a point to it, and it just turns out that and they've done studies like on the great philanthropists. So the great philanthropists were also first great businessmen for the most part, right? They earned the money, then they
Spent it,
give it away,
yeah.
right? Duh. It's not that hard. In the US, doesn't happen in Europe. Europe's got a completely different problem and lots of problems. But in the US, they all earned their money and gave it away. Well, it turns out they've done studies on this. When they ran their charities were much more efficient. They did much more good in the world. And then when either the second generation came along or other people ran the charities, they didn't do as well. And boy, no one wants to hear that, because boy, that really,
Well,
that
it's
blows up all
really
the
not
communism.
good news that competence is a finite resource.
Yeah.
When it's not
Like I
spread out equally.
would prefer to live on a planet of highly competent people. But I don't.
Yeah, but we sent everybody to college, so now they're perfectly competent, Father.
No, now they're all just incompetent in the same ways.
Well, and right, and arrogant about it, because they've
Mm.
been told that this is what competence is, and now you should earn, $120,000 a year, and I never fell
Well,
for it.
it's not like they're highly competent while they're in college.
Not
Yeah,
me.
The number of emails I get where the answer is check the workbook where all your homework is listed.
Read
You'd
the
think you
syllabus.
could figure
Read
that
the
one.
syllabus.
Right,
You'd
but
think you could figure that one out yourself, but no, we can't figure that one out apparently.
it was already divided up before they got there, because they were the people smart enough to go to college. See the trap? Right. And then and why do they have to work to be there? If they're smart enough to be there, why do they have to work to be there? Right. And like unconsciously, that's the message you send. And so, yeah, you get a bunch of people in college and, blah. And it's bizarre. I remember a million years ago, my girlfriend at the time called me up. It was late at night, and she wasn't back yet. But she had she's working on a thing at Northeastern, and chemical engineer. Very, very smart girl. But she called me up, and there's like 6 or 7 of them working on this project, and it's like 9:30 at night. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, we're trying to build this hydrogen car, and we got this gas tank problem, and we don't know what to do." And I was like, "Oh, you slow down. Like, what's the problem?" And she said, "Well, how do you keep the hydrogen from leaving the tank if you pump it in with a regular gas type pump?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Oh, you just use uh, a system where there's a ball that rolls down. So when you put the hose in, it pushes up, and then if it's well machined enough, as soon as you take the hose out, it'll seal that back up, and it doesn't like there's one moving part, right? But it's not mechanical because there's nothing, there's no mechanism." And she was just like, "That's brilliant." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like that wasn't hard, was it? Because I know how these things
There's
work.
similar systems on like peach balls, right?
Right. Well, and they're all chemical engineers. They're all at Northeastern, They ain't with the stupid kids at Northeastern either, right? They're at the top of the
But
class.
they're all chemical engineers.
Yeah, they were all chemical engineers. Yeah.
Okay, there wasn't a mechanical.
We're not
engineer there.
mechanical engineers.
Right. But
And
they
so
were
they
smart
called
enough to
the
be there.
computer science guy to figure this out.
No, they called a guy that just knows a lot of stupid things. So
They called one girl's really smart boyfriend.
they called the smartest person they could think of. MIT's across the river, but they knew better. The MIT student never would have answered. It would have taken a day and a half for them to come.
Well, they
They
probably
might
would
have
have
come
come
to
up
that
with some
conclusion. It would have taken
harebrained
them a
thing that
lot
they were
more.
really excited about, rather than the plain, simple, obvious thing that was just going to work because they
Yeah.
didn't invent it.
Well, but you also you have to know about those sorts of things. Like you have to, like I used to just build crazy things all the time, right? So I was like, oh, how do I do this? And it's easier when you work with it, because when you're working with stuff, you kind of get a feel for this. The problem with chemistry is that you don't really work with chemicals in the same way that you work with, say, physical objects, right? And like a lot of chemistry is guessing. When I found that out when I worked for the pharmaceutical company, because whenever I get a contract in some new industry, I like learn everything I can about the industry, right?
And probably people are happy to tell you about what they're doing as long as it's not
they
like a
love
trade secret. Yeah.
They love. Oh no! Oh no! 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 Oh no! They'll
Oh,
tell
they'll
you.
tell you the
That's
trade
why
secrets too. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, you wouldn't believe the stuff people told me, and I'm like, are you? Did you tell me that?
Is that a
Because I'm not
patent?
supposed to know that. Right. Well, and sometimes it was. They'd be like, well, this is patented, but here's how it works, because patents are open anyway. But yeah, it was. Yeah, it was interesting. But in chemistry, they do wacky things. Like you take a couple of chemicals, or maybe a single chemical, and you put it in a closed container with a bunch of BBs of different varying sizes, or maybe all the same size, and then you swirl it around for a month, and then you take that out and do it again with different size BBs, and like they have theories as to how this works and what this does, and they're very good at making it do the thing they want it to do, but they actually have no idea what's going on for real. Right. And they've got statistical models, and like they've got hints from electron microscopes, but they have absolutely no idea how that works. And they know it. Like if you ask them, they'll just tell you like, yeah, we really don't know why this works this way, but it does, and we just keep doing it. And it's like, what? And yeah, a lot of stuff is that way.
Yeah. I mean, that's how most of us live our lives now, is we're just taking advantage of systems.
Yep.
We have no idea. Like there is a very fancy compression algorithm that is getting our video signal down to a size that people can stream on the fly, right?
Right.
And like just some very smart minds have put that together. I don't know how it works. Right? I just click the buttons, and all of a sudden a dozen people can listen to me and Mark ramble on YouTube. It's great. But I don't know how it works. And that's just kind of how life is.
You live on your own by yourself. You're like a total individual.
No, I'm not an individual.
All these people rely on ridiculous amounts of technology that they know almost nothing about, and some of them think they do, and then it's a real mess, right? So yeah, like you think you know how electricity works, so you think, oh yeah, we'll just replace all the electricity with solar and wind, and it's like, if you understood the complexity of the electricity network, you wouldn't utter such a stupid statement, because there's a lot to. I was talking about that this morning, actually. There's a lot to that. I might do a video on it. I'm thinking about it. And I haven't even researched it. Like this is just stuff I picked up in some like preliminary, like, oh, I need to know something about electric grid stuff. I didn't do a deep dive on any of it. But like just the stuff I know is mind-bogglingly, ridiculously complex. And that was all about a talk about EMPs. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You actually don't need to fear an EMP strike. I can tell you why. I went into the whole thing.
This thing is just going to fall apart on its own.
Well, there's a bigger story there. Yeah. Complexity collapse is real, folks. And we might be seeing the signs of it. Just saying.
Did you watch the Jordan Peterson Temple Grandin interview?
That was a while ago, right? Did he do
It
another
was a
one?
while ago.
Yeah, I
No,
saw
it
that
was
one.
a while ago.
I
This
was tracking.
conversation is just reminding me of that conversation.
Yeah, I was tracking Temple Grandin before I knew about Peterson. Yeah, she's an interesting person.
Yeah. I went on a high school, I don't know, I read a lot of stuff. I haven't read her book, but I've read like, stuff about her, and such. Because I got very interested in it in high school.
Mm.
I actually did
Yeah.
my capstone project on something with autism. I don't remember. We had to pick like a topic and discuss it involving like philosophy and theology, and then apply Catholic social teaching to like how this should be dealt with in the world. And that was my high school capstone project.
Yeah, she's a hero in the Midwest with cattle people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you get better meat because the cows aren't freaking out when they're on their way to the slaughter shop. They're just
Better meat. It's cheaper and quicker for them to get you the meat. There's tons of advantages. It's one of those things that folds into a bunch of efficiencies that you don't expect, and people don't understand that. Like one thing I could put on my resume that actually might have been there at one point was, 1% efficiency increase, and it's like that doesn't sound like much. Well, except it was 1% efficiency increase per connection, and the number of connections is in like the millions per minute. And so that 1% efficiency ends up being a 7,000% increase in overall efficiency across the runtime of the system of an hour, right? And so it's like, oh, well, that's 7,000% pretty big, but it was the tweak was a 1% efficiency change. Just happens to collapse a bunch of other problems in, and then everything gets vastly more efficient.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's only possible because we have independent, properly intelligent agents that care about doing things at least correctly enough. And that's why I'm going to disagree with Bubbleless here. Most of the jobs will be done by AI and robots. Nope. Because they have you tried loving the correct things?
They
Now,
can't
Mark,
do it.
you're an expert on AI systems. Can you program them to care about doing a good job?
Nope.
No.
It's impossible.
In fact, you can't even get them
Even
to
I
do
know
a
that
good
one.
job. So, yeah, I grabbed all my tweets, my Age of Gnosis tweets in particular, and threw them into my little test AI, and it just turns out it's miserable at definitions unless you do a bunch of work, and the work isn't done to the AI. Dun dun done. Right?
Done to the data, right?
It's
You
done
do.
to the
You have to
data
do it to
store.
the data.
Yeah, technically the vector database has to be tweaked, and I'm in the process of figuring out how to do that. And I didn't know any of this. I had to go to, because I know how to build AIs. I know how neural nets work, right? But I don't. The thing I don't know is the LLMs in particular, and how the data interfacing works. So I had to ask my buddy, who's in Columbia, South Carolina, fortunately, like, hey, what about this? He goes, oh, that's a tokenization problem. And I went, oh yeah, that makes sense. And he said, you have to tweak the vector database and add a token for the phrase, and then it will be able to define it. And yeah, people don't realize that all instances of AI actually end up borrowing time, energy, and attention, particularly attention from you, right? Because they can't attend to things at all. Like that's not within the realm of what they can do.
No, it's a very fancy word generator.
It's a mirror. Well, there's actually, Emma, you'll like this. So I figured out what the problem was when Peterson was talking about it. He said, "Oh yeah, it would probably be called the Hamming distance if you're using like crazy Claude Shannon language. But what it does is word clouds, and it calculates distances between words. That's how LLMs seem so smart. Of course, the problem with that is exactly the problem I had that I was talking about, which I proved, by the way, which is it doesn't know definitions, because definitions are axiomatic starting points for words. And so if you put a new word in, even if you say the definition of this word is X, it doesn't know that, and it will not give you the right answer. And I just
Right,
found
because
that
it's not like it's actually reading anything. It's just, oh, this word makes sense to follow this word, and this word makes sense to follow this word, and whether it corresponds to any reality doesn't matter.
Right. It calculates the likelihood that given these 5 words, which order would they be in? Right. And it's complex. It's not that simple, but it says, well, this word's most likely to follow this word based on the corpus I've been trained with, which is the garbage in, garbage out. Right. And then this word follows this one, and this would follow this one. And it can string things together that sound reasonable. But if you train your own and use your own data training, you quickly find the limits of that system. It's like, whoa, this doesn't work at all. It doesn't do very basic things that any 3-year-old can do.
Right,
So-
or even just if you ask it a question you know something about.
Yeah. So how is that different than like autocomplete from like the late 90s? I guess that's one of the questions I have.
It's not. It's not. In fact, if you paid close enough attention, and not that you should have or anything, but spell checker works worse now than it ever did. And the reason why is because they use AI, and they're using an AI context engine, and AI can't do context. And so what ends up happening is you get really weird spell checking, and the original spell checking algorithm, and I forget who did it. My brain's a little fuzzy on the name. The guy who wrote it, it's 100 lines of code. It's literally nothing. It's actually 100 lines of code.
I mean, it was running on my Motorola Razr. No,
Right.
no, or like a version of it would have to be running on my Motorola Razr, because I could
Right.
use the T9, and
Yep.
it had like a dictionary in there that would find usually the right word. Not always, though.
You don't even need a dictionary to do better spell checking than AI. That's the funny part. You could do it with an algorithm. Dictionaries just improve it.
Trey, if you're talking right now, we can't hear you.
Yeah, you're on mute, Trey. Why are you on an airplane? Where are you
Yeah,
going?
you might just have to leave your commentary in the chat here. If I find it interesting enough, I'll bring it forward for the folks. And Sam, I'm glad you got your webcam working.
Yeah.
Welcome.
He was kind of in and out on the bottom there, and I know Andrew's got. I know Andrew, and I can like message him on Discord if he's trying to come on and figure out if he's gonna do something nasty. But
Could be any day now.
could be any day
Yeah.
now.
Well, Andrew's a celebrity, right? So unlike
He's a
us
celebrity on
common
my
folks, he
channel
can't
anyway.
show his face.
Yeah.
No, he really is kind of, I guess, a pretty big streamer apparently. Because I had asked him to be part of the discussion group that Emma, Mark, and I are having about introduction to Christianity, and
You're
I guess he
Michigan,
didn't want
Sam.
his face on it. I
Yes.
am. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That might be a different Andrew.
Oh, okay.
It's a common name.
There are like 4 of them.
I've met
There
more
are
than
many
4.
Andrews. I was giving a lowball number.
Oh,
to
you
be
mean
safe.
the ones that you
I
know
mean,
on the
like-
internet?
Like that I know on Discord, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know if I know that many
I'm
actually.
even counting my brother, who is also named Andrew.
Oh, there we go. 5.
My brother's
There's-
named Andrew too.
There's a lot of Andrews around. Trey is pulling out.
We're gonna take over the world.
Technical terminology. Trey, do I need to grab the book off the bookshelf and just show you the algorithms? Because I have both A-star and greedy search and like half a dozen others. I well aware. AI doesn't use either, by the way. Dun dun dun. Yeah, LLMs use word cloud and word distance through connections. That's actual algebra. So I can't even do it because I can't do algebra.
I have a question. Word clouds are the same thing that like English teachers do sometimes to make art out of the book you're reading, right?
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
not different.
No, it's a similar. When you translate that into a computer, it obviously doesn't work like that. But yes,
Right, it'll be less pretty and more computer processable.
If
but-
you were paying close attention and you're a geek, you will notice that word clouds and word frequency stuff was around about 10 or 15 years ago. And then AI showed up. That might have been a hint as to how they got AI, LLMs in particular, to work.
You just forcibly reminded me that I was in high school 10 years ago.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
Only
remind
10
you.
years ago, Emma. Okay.
I know, only 10 years ago. That's why I'm still like adjusting to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, part of the dirty little secret is most of the things that people think AI is good at, actual, just regular old, well-known 30-year-old algorithms are far better at. And they're just using that and slapping the AI name on it. And the only interesting thing in AI are LLMs.
So, what is the difference between AI and an algorithm then? Because my understanding of AI has been computer does something smart and helpful.
No, I mean, this is where the problem comes in, is how do you define AI, right? So algorithms you can just read and tweak, and you can know the outcome because they're mathematically certain, because they are mathematical formulas. It literally is a mathematical algorithm, right? And then what happened is technically they got these things called support vector machines, which use very sophisticated math called dot products to calculate, what do I want to say? Distances of things in 3D space, and what you could do with that. With that, it does more than that. I have to oversimplify because it's too complex for me to explain. And it's all crazy math. What you can do is you can add an arbitrary number of dimensions until you can find a cluster, and that probably doesn't make much sense. But it just turns out that as you add dimensions, if there's a cluster to be found, you can find it. Sometimes there's no correlation at all. But sometimes the correlation just is in a higher dimension, and SVMs can actually do that. And then after that, they kind of figured out, oh, wait, we can use neural nets and do something very similar. And a lot of this stuff at the same time was these things called genetic algorithms. And that actually, I'm a better expert in than AI, because I did years and years of genetic algorithms because they're cool and fun. But it turns out that if you combine those two concepts, around the dimensionality, that's the deep neural net stuff, and then you add back propagation, that's Geoffrey Hinton on both accounts, and then you add things like fuzzifiers, right? And then you add in the genetic component. Now all of a sudden you have a modern AI, and that's why it's AI, because it uses all of these extra principles. But the problem is it's what's called a black box. No one knows how it works. There are some minor exceptions to that, but effectively they don't know how it sees. And so when you look at a stop sign, you can modify a stop sign and it won't see the stop sign anymore, even though a human would. And that's a problem. And they can't fix that technically, because mathematically it's impossible. And like, nobody realizes this. There's a well-known paper. It's actually probably 7 years old now about this. But you can place a sticker on a stop sign, and there's no car available or technology available for the car to see the stop sign now.
Yeah.
They don't know how it sees, but they know that it sees.
Yeah. We've basically, listening to Mark talk about all of these so-called AI models, I've come to the conclusion that they are in fact artificial, but they are not intelligent, except insofar as we're able to put intelligence into them.
Well, I have another definition for artificial intelligence. And since artifacts are created by hands, and God made human minds with his hands, that means our minds are artifacts. So we have artificial intelligence in our heads.
Brilliant. That's
try to autocorrect that.
Aquinas.
She had ChatGPT.
I like it. I like that way better.
Yeah.
So then, is there a difference? Sorry.
Go ahead, Emma.
Is there a difference other than complexity between the like neural nets that people were feeding Hallmark movies into to get a new Hallmark movie like 5 years ago, and people doing the same thing with ChatGPT now? Like, is that different, or is it just basically the same situation? It's just shinier now.
Well, I think the problem now, so the problem they ran into immediately is that when you're talking about neural nets and brains, there are lots of different configurations you can use, and it's not clear which configurations are the best. And then aside from configurations, there's different ways to train them, and it's not clear which way to train them is the best. And then there's different ways to tune the training process, and it's not clear. Do you see where this is going? Combinatorial explosion. So if you go, there's a site called Hugging Face. If you go to Hugging Face, just look at the number of AI models there are that you can run, either in the cloud or on your desktop. And it just turns out that it's a huge number. And the question would now be, okay, well, which one is best? And then it's like, well, which task are you doing? And so it's already started to split apart, where it's like, wait a minute. And then there's training sets, and then there's a big argument over training data now. And actually, a bunch of people made a bunch of basic data science mistakes and overtrained the neural nets with duplicate data, which is always a mistake in training. Of course, they didn't know that because they're AI guys and not data science guys. And I happen to be an expert in both. So I was like, you guys are morons. I don't know why you did this. This is a stupid mistake, right? And it costs them because when you train on the same data 6 times when you should only train on it once, obviously you've wasted 5 of those training cycles for no reason. So yeah, it gets really complicated.
There wouldn't be an easy way to pull the training out, right? Like the math is already kind of lost in all of the other math. That's all this artificial
you just have to
intelligence
start
stuff
over.
is. It's just a lot of math running on a $20,000 NVIDIA chip.
It's just ones and zeros.
It is literally
it's just
just
nits
ones
and
zeros.
pearls.
It's the same thing. Well, it all came from the Jacquard loom. So fair enough.
Yeah, which came from knitting punch cards, I think.
Yeah, the Jacquard was the one who used the cards initially in a machine, in a mechanical machine. That was a long time ago.
It was.
That was way back
cool.
then. Yeah, and all the early computers were actually mechanical, like actual gears from IBM and NCR and companies like that back in the 1800s.
Nice. I thought they were just underpaid women. Computers. Well, they had like NASA computers there, so there were slide rules, just doing math all day.
No one was underpaid back then, but yes, certain women are better at certain types of math, so they had a lot of women doing that work, and they called them computers. There were mechanical machines long before that,
but they probably weren't as efficient and broke down too much. Whereas
So a lot of the history of IBM, which I actually didn't know until like very, very recently, right after I returned from Arkansas, in fact, and Dr. Jim turned me on to the idea that maybe I should be listening to audiobooks on my long trips. It turns out that a lot of that stuff, well, and in fact, the entire history of we'll say computers in the home is all tied up in military, right? Like the big driver for computers is artillery. It's rocketry basically, but it's rocketry stems from artillery. So they at a certain point you can't use the slide rules to calculate because the battle's moving too fast. It's not that you can't do the math; it takes too long, right? And then it's like, oh, so we need a mechanical way to do this, and then the complexity that requires is not easily done with a mechanical machine anymore.
Right. Because a mechanical computer is basically a microcosm of whatever it's trying to calculate.
Right. And the early calculations, just like the early writing, that might be a pattern. I know we're not on navigating patterns, but I'm going to spew some patterns anyway.
Fine. Yeah.
But the pattern is everything gets used for commerce first. So early writing is largely accounting, right? Early computers is all accounting, all of it. It's all business accounting. And then the government goes,
use it for war.
Right. Well, no. It's not even that. When the government goes, we need calculation machines that do a certain thing that isn't accounting, because accounting is addition, subtraction, and whatever. Double entry bookkeeping is pretty simple. It's like, oh, we can do some of this stuff, but then it turns out that the ability to calculate trajectories requires a bunch of different math, and then you can do some of that mechanically, but then it takes long. And then you're back to human speeds, even with the mechanical machine. And it's like, oh, that's not good. And then they go electronic on it. That's roughly roughly how it works. It's very compressed, but that's roughly how it works.
Xander, you haven't been on in a while. Did you
No,
do
I haven't.
some of that Exodus 90 action and just haven't been on the
Oh,
internet?
I haven't done any Exodus 90. I've been putting the bed, putting the toddler to bed.
Oh, well, that's
180.
That's good too.
that's also a good use of your time.
Yeah. But I've been keeping up with my prayers, Father. I just finished the Divine Mercy novena.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Nice.
It's a good one. Came up.
It's really funny. In my head, the Divine Mercy Novena is like super traditional because my dad was very intent on us praying the Divine Mercy Novena when we were kids, right? But that wasn't popularized until the 90s, I think.
Yeah, or the 80s or
It's
90s.
a
80s or 90s.
relatively new.
It's a new thing.
Mhm.
So we moved from South Carolina to Norway. And my dad was all excited about the Divine Mercy Novena and the Divine Mercy devotions and all of that. And he goes to the priest and says, "Hey, are we doing confessions on Divine Mercy Sunday?" And this really sarcastic Norwegian priest, he was awesome. He looks at my dad and he says, "Oh, you mean that Polish thing?"
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
well, yes, it was the Polish saint and the Polish Pope who popularized this, so I suppose.
I guess that makes it a Polish thing.
I guess it's just a Polish thing, yeah. So, but
Yeah.
it's still going pretty strong. So I think it might actually last for a while. It won't just be a little flash in the pan.
Flash in the Pan devotions could be good too, though. Sometimes they're just what you need for that period of time.
Right, right, right.
Well, I think that it has there's a lot of significance in the Divine Mercy image too, and the whole focus on connecting mercy to both the blood and water of Christ.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's a lot of power in that emphasis, and I think
Mhm.
and this symbolically there. I've been like meditating a lot, and I think that um, there's something to be said for the idea that mercy requires both the blood and the water. That
Mhm.
if you can think of mercy as the water, but it doesn't make sense without the blood, right? It's
Eh,
blood being the rigor, or the uh, um, the guilt, like having that sort of symbolism of like, oh, this is the accountability. Like, so
Mhm.
when you pierce Christ, your blood, the blood is revealed, but with the blood comes the water that immediately is there to provide mercy and the opportunity of salvation.
Well, I look at the way it's played out in the life of the church, and this actually connects back to the very beginning of the live stream. Is we do baptism first. That's your first sacrament in, and let's say that you're converting. It's all going to happen in one night. And the fullest symbolism is you're putting something under the water and killing it.
Hmm.
Now the person doesn't die, but like all of the sin inside of them dies, which is why the church, even in its modern liturgical documents, actually has a preference for full immersion baptism versus just pouring the water on the head. Not that I've ever been able to do it because you need baptismal fonts that are designed for that, but
Hmm.
it is a preference there. And then confirmation, right? So you've washed away everything that would keep somebody from God, and then you seal them with the gift of the Holy Spirit, so that the devil can't just get right back in there. And then you fill the person with the body and blood of Christ in Holy Communion. Um, and so the church fathers have seen among the it's a symbol, so we've
Hmm.
got Mr. Navigating Patterns here himself, tell us that a symbol can go from many to many, and that's the benefit of symbol. But one of the more common ways the fathers of the church interpreted the water and blood coming from Christ's side was he's giving us baptism and the Holy Eucharist, which are the two greatest sacraments that the church has. um,
Hmm. Well,
so yeah, I mean, but it's like it's a symbol, so we can do a lot with it.
but yeah, but in when you're preparing uh uh when you're consecrating the wine in the mass, also there's this mixture of the wine and the water, which you could also you could see as the red wine being a stand-in for blood. Well, Christ says it's his blood, but there's the mixture of like at the beginning of the mass, like so start there's you add a little bit of water to the wine, and then there's a little bit of wine in the water at the end when you're cleaning. I don't know.
I suppose, yeah. So the infusion of water. Gosh, I don't even know it in English anymore. Through the. Oh my gosh, I don't know it in English anymore. I only know it in Latin. Per huius aquae vini mysterium meus efficiamur divinitatis consortes qui humanitatis nostri fieri dignatus as particeps. What's that, Emma?
Through the mixing of wine and water, I couldn't catch the second half super well because it's so fast.
Isn't it basically like, well, Father, is that the new rite, or is that the old rite?
That's the new rite
Latin?
there. The old rite's a little longer,
Okay.
and I don't have that memorized, but it's always on the card in front of me, so I don't need to.
The English is basically like it's about how, like, in creating man, his nature was he dignified man's nature in his creation, and still dignified it even more greatly through his restoration. And so there's this like it's looking at the incarnation of Christ being both God and man. That's actually what explicitly, at least in the language of the Old Mass, is looking at. It's a symbol of the incarnation, of the two natures of Christ being found in one person. So yeah, it's not really
looking. I was just going through the Latin Mass Missal earlier today. I think I was focusing on something else.
I've been going through it for 2 years, and I still haven't got it figured out. So.
All right, I'm trying to find this text here on the internet. Here we go.
Don't waste your time. They destroyed search a long time ago.
Here we go.
On the internet sucks.
Here we go. Putting it in the comments.
Uh-oh.
You might need to check Paul's Discord song. Specifically what part.
Sharing the divinity of Christ to him.
Wow. Maybe sharing his divinity of Christ who humbled himself to share.
So this was actually a point of controversy between at the Council of Chalcedon between those who held a monophysite Christology versus a diphysite Christology, whether or not the divinity of Christ absorbed the humanity of Christ, and those two didn't come distinct. And they took this ancient liturgical practice, comes all the way to the fathers, of mixing just a little bit of water in with the wine and saying, look, the water was dissolved in the wine, so the humanity of Christ was dissolved in the divinity.
Can you imagine making an argument from liturgy like that today for theology?
Yes, I can.
Are you kidding? He's waiting for his chance.
Like, that's true. It's just like, it would catch so many people so off guard, and I am absolutely here for it.
They'd freak out. It would be glorious. Absolutely glorious.
Everyone would just be like, what does that have to do with anything?
Do you have any predictions, Father, for Dignatus was Infati?
Oh gosh, coming up tomorrow? Yes. I just imagine them releasing that document on the day that there's a massive eclipse in the United States, and it's the Feast of the Annunciation, not on the correct day.
Wait, what?
There's a document about human dignity coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, called Infinite Dignity. I have my prediction of what it's going to.
My prediction is that it's actually not going to cause near as much of a kerfluffle as the last one, but it'll say what it needs to say only 5 times longer than it's really necessary, with lots of that really irritating Italian habit of putting everything into the passive voice. That's my prediction.
That's your prediction? Okay.
I don't think I'm going to read it.
English doesn't like passive verbs.
Unless you are a scientist, and then everything has to be third person past possessive.
Unless
Past
you're
passive.
a scientist, and then you have never done anything to things. Things have just happened and been acted upon.
Right. That's
Right.
Lots
You
definitely
of
how
gotta
science
take the
scientists have
works.
said.
person out of the science.
No, it did. It drove my mother nuts proofreading my writing for years after high school and college because she's like, active voice, active voice, active voice, active voice. I'm like, this is how they taught me to write in school.
Passive
I
aggressive
wore.
voice.
Yes. Oh my goodness. You know, it was done. She was like, you did it. Not it was done by me. It's like, come on, get in the world, be part of it. Speaking of eclipses, totality is like running right through here. So we're gonna go chase clear skies tomorrow morning.
All right.
I'm super
I
excited.
went to the one in 2017. I was in Nebraska, middle of stinking nowhere, and it's actually really incredible to see. So
Just watch out for the vampires.
you just watch out for the
Look,
vampires. Yeah, werewolves get superpowered.
Yeah.
it is really, for those of you who haven't seen a total eclipse, like the difference between a partial eclipse and a total eclipse is just like they're not even the same thing. You're tracking along, you're chugging along, and it's like it's a little bit darker, and the shadows are weird, and then all of a sudden, like reality breaks, and you get sucked into the realm of fairy for about 4 minutes, and you don't know where you are or what's going on, and then you just get like spit out on the other side in a daze in like rural Missouri.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the animals act funny. Like
Yes,
you notice
including
around you outside.
yes, including the
It's-
rational animals. The rational animals particularly act funny.
Well,
Yes.
yeah. Well, they lose their grounding. They don't think they have any. I mean, that's the part of the meaning crisis, right? Is
Yeah.
you think you're a rational creature and you live in objective material reality, and because you don't, and then when the things around you change in a way that your subconscious notices, but your rational mind does not, because it doesn't pay attention to the noise level of birds during the day, because like why would you? It's sort of normal, right? Then you freak out. And you don't know why, because you're a rational creature after all, and nothing changed. It's just nothing to see here.
So, Mark, it's funny that you said that about noise levels of birds because I'm actually wearing my American Youth Birding T-shirt when I was on the American Birding Association's youth team to the World Series of Birding in Cape May, New Jersey. This would have been in 2008, I think. So, yes, I am. There's plenty of things I'm not keyed into. As anyone who spent time with me in the real world will know, that there's plenty of things I'm not keyed into, but birdsong is one thing that I'm totally keyed into. And it's one of those, I mean, I think about this on a regular basis, how like most people aren't like, oh, that's a brown-headed cowbird. Oh, that's a pine warbler. Oh, that's a chipping sparrow. Oh, that's a northern cardinal. But then I realize how many layers of reality are there that I'm not doing that with, because I'm keyed into birds, but I'm not keyed into 100 other things. And then all of a sudden you realize that you're just mostly walking along blindly. And yeah.
Well, unless you can't pay attention to all of it.
Right. You can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's questionable whether you should be paying that much attention to birds. I don't know.
I
breaks down.
noticed the last eclipse. Like I was like outside going like, whoa, this is wild. Because I have a huge field of attention. So I was just like, oh, all of this stuff is missing. There go the frogs, there go the birds, there go the crickets. Like the dragonflies are doing strange things. Where are the butterflies? You know, all this stuff.
This was just a partial eclipse, right? Or did the totality go over South Carolina? Because the last one, I think it might have, I guess. Just kind of.
No, I thought
it was a southeast arc. Yeah.
I thought it did. I have video of it somewhere. It's just sitting on one of my servers somewhere. So I have video of it somewhere because I had cameras, so I pointed them up at the sky. And no, but it was I think it was total, but it was weird for a few minutes, like really weird. Yep. And I was like, whoa, the whole world just got weird. What's going on? And then it subsided. And then it took a while for things to get normalized. It was like cacophonous, and then everything went back into sync. And it was like, well, that's pretty interesting. It's interesting what happens.
It is.
I got the worst hornet sting I've ever had during the last partial eclipse.
Oh no!
Do you get stung by hornets often?
Not super often.
Okay. I don't think I've ever
It
been
was one
stung
of
by a
those with
hornet.
like the really dangling like stingers. I don't know if it was actually a hornet, but whatever bug that is, and it really hurt. And I was out with my younger siblings,
I mean, I think the
like
hornets
observing
actually
the eclipse.
they come in like a dive bomber, right?
Sometimes.
Okay.
The other one I've had is just like the dumbest hornet sting I've ever had, because it was crawling on my shirt and I stabbed myself with it, and it didn't seem too bothered. And that was just embarrassing.
You didn't tell anybody about that one. You just kind of took care of it.
I mean, I think I was like 11.
Oh, okay.
That was a long time
So.
ago.
Are we talking about hornet
What
stings?
am I doing now?
Yeah, I'm sure you've got a wild
I mean,
hornet
we
sting
don't
story.
have
Stinging
to.
bugs. No, I don't want to hear Ted's
I don't have
horrific
any wild.
bad luck stories
I don't have-
again after
I
the
don't have
bear.
any- I don't have
encourage him.
I want to hear more Ted in nature. I want to hear all the Ted in nature stories.
No.
No, I actually have no bad insect sting stories. I'm like, social insects and I get along just fine. I don't know why.
Really?
So, no, I'm just curious. Yeah. But
You're
I
a
was
man
going
of
to say
peace,
that I
and
have
your
heard,
peace come upon the hive.
you know, I had that realization when I was like, I don't know, like 11 or 12. I woke up one morning and there was a wasp on my bed, just like on my covers. I was like, you know, I'm just going to not freak out. I just lay there in bed. And the wasp crawled around on me for a while and then flew off. And I was like, yeah, I mean, the last time I got stung by a wasp, I think I pushed a tree over with a tractor that had a wasp nest in it, and it stung me. One of them stung me, and I'm like, okay, fair. Like, I deserve that. Like, you're doing
Did
your
you
thing,
intend
which
to
is,
push the tree over?
No, I bumped it really hard. No, I was in a
Okay.
really tight spot in some small woods, and then I didn't even see the wasp nest. But then I was like, wow, why does the back of my neck hurt really bad? And then I looked up and, you know, it all made sense. No, I just remember reading, and I was only going to bring up that I can't remember if it was a hornet or it might have been what are they, like the bullet ants, some horrible South American ant. But a naturalist, like describing what it's like to be stung by this insect, described the pain level as being, quote, completely unacceptable.
Was this like a British anthropologist there, or a British
Right. I'm like,
entomologist?
how exactly how English is that? It's like, I find this thing completely unacceptable. Do better.
My dear fellow, this is outrageous.
This
They're
will
well
not
beyond bounds here.
stand. I'll be writing to my MP immediately.
Yes, exactly.
That's
oh my goodness.
funny.
No. What was the last thing I did? I got my finger smashed in a tailgate last month. That hurt really bad. That was some real pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pain is a weird thing. Pain is just weird. Pain.
It
like
contracts your attention.
It's the second
This
most
is-
real thing, according to Peterson.
Yeah, that's a weird one, dude. He needs to tighten that definition up, because what he said is the most real thing is like powerful narcotics.
Yeah. No, I'm glad somebody else noticed. I was like, this is a terrible definition, Jordan.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has
Well,
had
it's funny,
issues
actually.
with that now. With
Really?
yeah, that's why he went away for a little while, as far as I understand.
Oh yeah, back
With
before
drugs,
2020.
We got nerfed with benzodiazepines.
Yeah.
Ooh, is that on the
Yeah.
timeline? Should put it on the timeline. I don't think I put it on my timeline on
Put it on the timeline,
petersonsphere.com.
Mark.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. Well, I'll have my people do it because I have people for that now. Thank goodness.
What's interesting is that Peterson's like also the only person I've ever heard who he's like, everyone's like, man, why do people get addicted to drugs? And he's like, that's actually a terrible question. A great question is, why is everyone not addicted to drugs?
Exactly.
He's like, that's the good question. It's like, oh man, that's so true. It's so true.
Mm-hmm.
So Maybe we're all just addicted to digital drugs. I don't know.
Maybe
Yeah.
this doesn't
Yeah.
have. Huey Lewis got what he wanted. That's all there is to it. He got a new drug. Doesn't make him feel sick. We're taking
Well,
it
that's
right
what he
now.
was talking about. He was talking about love.
Yeah, but we got a new drug.
Yeah, it's called the internet.
The internet. Yeah.
Have you guys been following the Jonathan Haidt stuff?
Which?
Well, he's been all over the like podcasts and the news in the last week because he has a book about social media addiction, especially among adolescents or middle school age children. And he's on a big basically no one should be on social media before 18 kick, which I'm not sure what to make of exactly. I think he makes a lot of good points about social norms and smartphones, but I honestly, I don't know. I don't really trust the government necessarily to put the kind of regulations that he would want to have happen.
Big church is pushing that.
Yeah, the government's not going to solve it. But why 18?
25 is much better.
No. You were doing good before the qualifier. I thought that was great.
Yeah, no one should be on social media. So
so it applies to other age verification things. Like the example he used was Pornhub, for example, or which apparently doesn't have any real age restriction per se. So the idea is that basically social media sites and other websites should have to have some kind of age verification that the government could enforce, and they could have they could be sued if they. I'm probably with you. Yeah.
Just require Pornhub to have age verification, and everybody freaked the heck out.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter. You can't do it.
You can't.
The smart guys that developed the internet developed it to spec, and basically the spec is make sure this can't be interfered with from a central location.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, I'm oversimplifying, but and they did it. The mission accomplished. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. So all of this is crazy talk. It's all crazy talk. There's no way to enforce anything on the internet.
The really weird thing about digital stuff is, if you think about I like thinking about this in terms of hooks. There's these they're hooks, and you could say that they take advantage of our psychology or our dopamine cycles or our sin. I think those are all true. Those are all true ways to talk about it. And we've had we've had certain hooks previously, like violence towards other people or sex or things like that. And then we started with certain technical capabilities have been able to develop some really powerful hooks, like say opium. That's a great one. Figure out if you grow poppy seeds and refine the sap from them in a certain way, hey, that's a pretty crazy hook, right? Or cocaine,
fentanyl.
Also a really crazy hook.
I mean, fentanyl is just a tiny amount will take you from the worst pain in your life to bliss.
So the reason I was bringing up opium and cocaine in particular is that you can find specific places in history where it was totally wrecking a society, say opium in China, when the British were making sure that a lot of Chinese were addicted to opium. And then we kind of got past that. Okay, the thing about opium or cocaine or any substance, any physical hook, is you have to be there with it, right? Now imagine what digital technology has done is it's there is now fentanyl in everyone's fridge. Fridges come standard with fentanyl. And so it's you want to go get breakfast? You've got to get breakfast and also not grab the fentanyl out of your fridge. And it's how do you do that every day of your life? I don't know. It's I just don't have fentanyl in my house. And then I'm not, there are these huge barriers in my physicality to get to that. Likewise with any substance or lots of other, these really negative hooks. Gambling, right? Gambling is another big one. Dude, if you read the psychology of casino design at all, it's just tapping into these things, but I can choose to never go into a casino. But when you have digital stuff, and Mark, as you said, it's built to spec that it's always leaky. Like the internet is intrinsically leaky. So you're like, we want to plug all the cracks for the addictive stuff. It's like, what is the addictive stuff exactly? And how do you plug the cracks? And so then when everyone's life is like, well, you have to do the internet to do life. It's like, man, we need more monasteries.
Yes.
Because what else? Like, what else? I don't know. It's tough. It's really tough. It's like, yeah, why 18?
What's that? We need to
Why
put
is it like
internet
that?
in monasteries?
Silence.
You need to get people out of the internet, and monasteries
I'm
are
on
one of the
board. Let's
ways
do
that
it.
people can legitimately engage. Yeah.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Father. That is
That's right, Father.
correct.
Yeah.
But the answer was in an 80s movie all along, and nobody paid attention. It's the best line in the movie too, and nobody paid it. And like everything that's going on now is in war games. No, just watch war games. You'll see it all. It's right. The pattern, all the patterns are right there.
We still don't have an AI system that lives up to the standard set to us by Joshua.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
They were running that on a chip that could be measured in hertz, I'm sure.
Yes. Yes. Allegedly. Yes. Well, it's the same path, right? The story of the professor who built it is the story of he trained it to play checkers, and he used his child to train the computer, and he trained it to play chess, and it was very familiar with him. And then this new kid comes along, and they think it's him, and they think it right. They only have one pattern, and that movie is so good. It's like completely underrated at this point. It's only gotten better with time.
The movie's called War Games, in case nobody knows what we're talking about. War Games, starring Matthew Broderick, and nobody else really of note that I can remember.
Mark, I thought you would appreciate this. I was reading back through some Calvin and Hobbes, and there's this great one where Calvin and Hobbes are reading a newspaper, and he's like, Calvin says, "Oh man, they're talking. Scientists are talking about building thinking machines. It's like, what's going to be left for humans to do?" And Hobbes goes, "Irrational behavior." And Calvin says, "Maybe they'll invent psychotic computers."
That's great.
And then the Bing chat box just starts insulting you, right?
Just
boom,
put
mission
it down.
accomplished.
Put it down. Bill Watterson predicted large language models. He was there. Oh man.
It's all the same pattern. That's what people don't realize. Everybody's like, it's all new. And I just did a video with Adam, Echoes of the Past. And I was like, no, bro. None of this nothing you see is new. None of it. 0%. Just like in history, you'll find the same thing going on with different implementations.
I always find that comforting.
Really?
Yeah, we've survived it so far.
Is that a source?
Yeah,
of
we know how to
comfort,
deal with it.
Wow.
We've survived this
I feel
stuff
like we need some gigantic brackets
already.
and qualifiers.
No, the qualifiers are you have to be aware, right? The world is attention, and then you have to actually attend to it and do something about it. And Ted, you had the solution earlier, right? We need more monasteries. We need a bunch of them immediately. Yeah. No, that's the solution. And Sally Joe goes into this, right? Like, why doesn't the Catholic Church own a bunch of spas? They should be running the spas instead of the dirty, smelly hippies that run them now. I agree.
I would love to run a spa.
And we could
build a spa.
I would love to go to a Catholic spa where I didn't have to worry about like crystals.
You can come to Fargo and join my religious order.
Yes, we can build the postmodern baths.
It'll be like a whole urban monastery dedicated to clean living in the 21st century.
Yeah,
clean food, clean lifestyle, and a spa.
Yeah, the problem is you can't live in North Dakota. It's not a livable part of the universe. So
it is if we give them TVs.
I've been dead this entire time.
Sally's making a distinction between crystal hippies and dirty hippies. I make no such distinction. Sorry, Sally.
The crystal hippies are.
I mean, I don't like either of them, but the crystal hippies will like
as long as the
or weird crystal crap.
As long
I
as the
don't
crystals
appreciate
dissolve
that.
in the baths to make bubbles, that's fine with me.
Those would be acceptable crystals, yes. But yeah, no, the churches should absolutely have a market there. Like where
Jim.
you go there, there's no cell phones, you can relax, right? Like, yeah.
There's a gym for the boys and a spa for the ladies.
That was my plan for my future house if I didn't have kids.
No phones?
In the bath, yeah.
No phones in the bath. Okay. Sounds like a good plan to me. I can approve of that. Don't take your phone into the bath. Nothing good will come from
That's a
that.
bad plan.
There's a business model there for sure. But the churches should be doing it though. That's the problem.
Just make retreat centers nicer.
No. We need real retreat centers run by people who
make
care,
them
because
like real retreat centers.
the problem is you can't pay people to care, but you can pay caring people.
Every retreat center in our diocese will have a sauna.
Hooray!
Yay.
And a flat screen TV.
No.
No? Oh.
Sally's got a
Yeah, that's the
About
opposite of
Wi-Fi.
what we're going for.
And free Wi-Fi.
There will be a single Ethernet cable running into the abbot's office. And by law and by custom, he will not be on the internet unless there is another brother in the room with him also working.
Ooh. I like that.
Just to keep the Father Abbot free of temptation. And really good ad blockers on it, so he won't have some kind of ad showing up and presenting images to him. Oh man, I can make it happen. I just need more
Better
priests.
stay off of pirate sites. Yeah.
Just give him a YouTube Premium subscription.
The YouTube Premium subscription. Oh goodness.
I think Sally Jo's on to something, right? The physical wellness is abandoned by the church, right? Like it has been, right? Physical wellness, the church should be paying attention to physical wellness and not levels of affluence, right?
You know what I want? I want the Catholic equivalent of Tai Chi.
What's Tai Chi?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
The like moving meditation thing. Because I was thinking about this, and there are all these like moving meditation martial arts that are like martial arts or movement and religion together at the same time. And I was like, why don't Christians have this?
Yeah, they're not.
I feel like we had to have had them at some point, but where did it go?
Well, that was all monasteries. Like all types of monasteries. Yeah, all types of warrior monks is a thing because all types of monasteries did that because they were education centers. So really, all the education came out of there.
Yeah, I guess it would come out of the Greek gymnasium tradition.
Right.
Yeah, and that had its own problems.
Well, it did
I
until
mean, I guess.
they fixed it with equality in the Republic. Yeah, that's only funny if you actually know the joke in the Republic and know that it's a joke.
I don't remember that part. People take the Republic way too seriously, though. I will agree with that one.
Exactly. Well, he mentions like literally at least 9 times. He says, and the women and the men must train together in the training center, right? And because they trained naked, and like any idiot can figure out
Socrates.
They're being
That's our Socrates.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so dumb. And obviously, like they keep mentioning it, right? He brings it up at every possible opportunity. It's like, this is why I like Plato. He's my kind of guy.
Oh my goodness. Yes, like I said, the gymnasiums had their problems, which is probably why they weren't adopted wholesale by Christians in the early centuries of the empire, because the gyms and the bathhouses were places of iniquity very often. Sin, places you could go to get some good sin in.
Good sin.
Yeah.
Well, just talk to the people who yell outside my window at 2 o'clock in the morning. They'll tell you all about the good sin.
I don't think the
Good.
Father is saying it is good. I think he's saying that the people think it is good.
If you're gonna go for it,
Yeah,
you
good
may as
old
well go all
sin.
the way.
Yeah, if you're gonna do a thing, do it right.
Don't be lukewarm,
And do it
man.
wrong.
Yeah,
do it wrong right.
Yeah.
I mean, this all comes back to loving the appropriate things, and
Yeah.
what the empire of screens that we have set up are encouraging us to do is to love only that which can be communicated over a screen and through some headphones, because that's what it can do. But we should be
Like
loving our
drugs.
body. We should be loving our bodies more because they are created by God and they are conjoined instruments, the natural instruments with our souls in the constitution of a human person, and the means whereby we experience the creation that God has created. So, yeah, loving our embodied life more than the glowing screens.
So,
Sounds
so
hard.
here's a real question
Yeah.
that relates to screens. Would you ban screens during mass if you had the capacity to do so? Because I was hearing people talk about this in relationship to Protestant churches on another podcast today, because height had gotten brought up.
You mean like projector screens?
Well, no, like
phone?
smartphones or like devices or.
Well, it's
I've never-
definitely a transgression to bring out your
Those-
phone during mass.
I've never seen a smartphone anywhere near a Catholic service ever.
Really? Okay.
I mean, so what
I've
happens?
seen some
The
people
most
do the
common way they'll
Magnificat
come up
phones during a
is
daily mass.
some old woman has forgotten to silence it, and it rings during mass. That's the most common way these things get manifested. Occasionally, you will see somebody who downloads the readings on their phone and they'll follow along with it, but most people don't like doing that on their phone. They would prefer to have
Yeah.
something paper. They like the paper because it's less ephemeral than the phone. But I don't see a whole lot of like Candy Crush. You
I
know,
can't.
like Catholic churches. Most of them, you get the sense like, oh, this is different, and I'm not gonna
There's
just
a reverence. There's a reverence field around a Catholic or an Orthodox. To be fair to my Orthodox friends, church, like it's palpable, and yeah, like that wouldn't be tolerated. Like I can see where the heathenist pretend Catholic, Christian Protestants would not care, but like everybody else does. So,
Well, I think it helps that the mass is usually somewhere in the range of 45 minutes, because there are longer Protestant churches.
depends on where
services
you're
quite
at.
often.
45 minutes is a little on the short end for a Sunday. If you're at a really small church that doesn't have a lot of music, 45 minutes is pretty doable. But most larger churches, it would end up taking closer to an hour. And if you're gonna, join me and Ted at the traditional Latin Mass, we're looking at hour and 10, hour and 15 pretty easily.
We hit solidly hour and a half today.
on the Orthos, they're 2 hours, right? That's their short one. Crazy.
But that was Latin Mass, and it was a really full Latin Mass with a lot of music.
Now, are you talking about like screens up there for music? You seen that too? I don't like that. I kind of
Yeah, it's
I'm
like
not even sure
guitars.
about pews and hymnals, right? Like pews and hymnals might have been a mistake because
I would
there
like
was
to keep
this,
hymnals, please.
I know, but there was just this great like the young monk shows up and he learns the ancient melodies to chant during the mass, and like by the time he had the wizened old monks, they didn't even need the books anymore. So I mean, I don't mind it so much when you've got like these are 15-year hymnals, right? Like we're going to keep these hymnals around until they wear out, and we have to replace them because they're falling to pieces. I don't like the Oh, here's our 2024 hymnals.
Yeah.
Oh, the missalettes.
Well, I also agree just on the premise that it's annoying to try to announce what number page the recessional's on when the priest is halfway down the aisle after the Marian antiphon already. And yeah, that's
Well, a hymn
That's
board
tough.
should be able to take care of that.
well, you don't always get to change them.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, we won't be able to fix these problems
Oh,
here.
I know. Digital hymn boards. There we go. Just put a screen up.
I've seen that. It's okay. I don't like it though.
I've seen ones that are actually just the like red clock numbers.
Yeah, that's what I've seen.
No
And
electronic
they
anything
put the three
anywhere
digits up
near
there.
the church. Like
So we're gonna have to go back to candles.
within
saying I'm
50
opposed.
miles. Like not I'm absolutely candles. Like you have
Candles,
electric lights?
no
What are you doing?
microphones. Oh gosh,
That's all wrong.
if I could never use a microphone in church again, that would be wonderful.
Why would you need
Well-
one?
We would have had to not design our churches like garbage for 100 years or 70 years, though, for that to be possible.
Yeah, there's a lot of
back then.
like carpet and bad materials that absorb sound.
Fix
Yeah.
it. That's your job, Andrew. Get on it, dude.
Almost my job.
It will be. It will be.
Start with
It could
St.
be.
Nat's and champagne.
Yeah, I actually went to an Anglican mass on Ash Wednesday where they printed the liturgy on like letter size paper, and it was about 20 pages. So, I mean, I guess that's one way.
You got a packet.
Yeah, exactly. That's one way
Sounds
to.
like homework.
Yeah, exactly. To deal with the problem of the hymnal, just make sure it's all on the paper. But yeah.
I mean, we'll do for like big liturgies. We'll do print out pamphlets, right? So my my administrative assistant was busy all last week getting our. We've got a synod coming up in the Diocese of Fargo. It's a big meeting. Something good might happen.
Ooh.
We'll see. And so I'm in
Oh, is
charge
it a
of.
good kind of synod? Not a we're closing half the churches in the diocese kind of synod?
Right. Yeah, we've already closed all the church. Like when a church closes in North Dakota, it's because the town's dead and nobody's left to like keep the lights on. So it's a little different than, St. Louis selling half of their churches because there's nobody in them, but they've got the priests. It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
So, we'll do like the big booklets, but like a letter side, that's just not somebody was just lazy with that. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, because usually they do the like 2 pages to 1 letter size, and then you fold it in half, and then it makes a nice little booklet. That's
Don't
what
the
I.
Anglicans have enough money to pay people to do that for them? I don't know. I always think that the Anglicans and the Episcopalians is just got big endowments, You can always have great music. Anyway, I do hate the mics. I really do hate the mics. Especially when you go someplace and the only one they have is the one that hangs down by your ear like you're a pop star.
Ooh, fun.
No, they're not fun at all. They're awful.
No, they're not.
Up in your vestments.
They're not good.
Hey, everybody, welcome.
They're not good when you do theater either.
I'm about to do the mass,
Just for the
y'all.
record. They're always very difficult to deal with, and they're very visible, and they make me sad. I used to do mics for our high school theater.
I also had a mic in high school theater.
Did you ever have to tape them to your face?
No.
See, ours were really old, and they didn't like have the plastic molding to go on your ear.
Oh.
So we had them taped to our face and to our neck.
Yeah, I was the
How does
person.
it sounds?
I was the person who distributed them every night and then collected them and like made sure they all worked and didn't get lost.
Nice. So you just like taped a mic to your face, and then you're like, all right, time to go do the sacrament of the Mass.
No, I've never had to tape them as a priest.
Oh,
Usually,
okay.
most places, they've got the little lapel mic, and you just clip that to the front of your chasuble, and
Oh, interview.
it's okay. It's not that visible, but you gotta there's like
Industry standard.
there's a whole art to like going down there and turning it on and off at certain points in time,
And
and
if you forget, it gets really awkward really quickly.
yeah, like you're trying to like get something like get the water, and then everybody in the church can hear it. It's just oh yeah, the
Or just
mics.
hear a priest who likes to sing, and we can hear you singing like
I
way louder
absolutely
than anybody else.
I have very, very vivid memories of masses at the cathedral in Detroit, where I was in seminary. And it's great that Archbishop Vigneron would walk in with a hymnal, singing whatever hymn that they were doing for the opening mass. But he should not have had his microphone on because the choir was in the front and he was in the back, and he was a solid second behind the choir.
Yeah, that
It
happens.
was just, and like he couldn't hear it.
That's
He was
just
just,
excruciating.
and he is just an excellent bishop. Just
But that's
put the microphone up.
excruciating.
People will hear you and see you singing without the microphone. It's just
No
even
one
the
needs
good
to
ones
hear
are.
you singing that well.
Even the good ones.
Yeah, we have that problem in the cathedral because the cantor's at the front, but the organ is in the back. So my friend of the choir director's like, we should really just keep the cantor back here because that would be way easier and liturgically correct.
As somebody who has done a fair amount of singing and church music, I firmly believe that musicians belong in the back.
I do too.
It
Yeah,
is their natural place, that they generally enjoy it back there more because if they have
absolutely.
to start passing music out or somebody freaks out and loses their mind, nobody sees it,
Yeah.
they're not up
Yeah.
front.
I do not wish to be seen if I am singing in a choir. Like it's not nice to look at when you're singing anyway. Like
Yeah,
you make
there's not a whole lot to look at.
stuff.
It's the singing. You don't really look at the music; you kind of listen to it. So, but yeah, you don't have to see a lot of that, like hand waving and conducting and all that stuff.
It's just coming from heaven, as far as you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Ah, heck. Okay.
How would you know?
How would
What are
you
you loving? You should love something higher that you can't see.
Oh, yes. Love something higher. And you specifically, the not seeing it is important.
Yeah.
I mean, I usually see it. So
You're mystically representing the cherubim when you're singing at church, Andrew.
okay.
So just pretend you're invisible.
Okay.
Yeah, just act invisible. Duh.
Yeah.
In the choir loft, in the back, where
I'll
nobody
sneak
can see
up
you.
and like tie the choir director's shoes together without him noticing.
Would a cherubim do that?
Maybe.
Have you seen some of those Renaissance paintings?
Those aren't real cherubim.
Those cherubim would do that.
Evil cherubim.
I want you to pretend that you're covered in eyes.
Oh, okay.
Right? That you've got 6 wings and 4 faces. Really important.
How am I going to prop a bucket up on a door if I got 6 wings?
Exactly.
I don't know, man, but the cherubim figure it out.
Wow. All right, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, I guess those are Putti, not cherubim. I don't know where that would be a fun thing to look up actually, where the name cherubim came from for those.
It's just a bunch of Italians painting things. I don't think it's that serious. They weren't theologians.
No. But did they even use it? When did it actually start?
The naked baby
When did they start calling them cherubim? Because most art critics and stuff call them Putti.
Which what does that mean?
Little boy.
Okay. I don't know.
I
I don't
think
know. I don't acknowledge any art after the Renaissance. So
Excellent.
well, these are in the Renaissance.
right. So starting in
Oh,
about
so including the
starting at
Renaissance.
about 1350, I'm done. I'm just done with it all. Yes, we might miss Fra Angelico. He was good.
Nah, he can count as medieval.
He can count
What
as
about
he's much more medieval
Michelangelo?
than he is modern. Sorry, he's much more medieval than he is Renaissance. I used the word modern, Mark. I'm sorry about that.
I heard it. I was gonna forgive you. I don't know. Can we give up Botticelli? Because Botticelli's pretty good, man.
Right? There might be something good out there. Might be. We got at least we've got Jonathan Pageau, right? I could probably like his stuff.
Yeah,
I like the his images of all creation.
those are
That's
cool.
should get that on my wall somewhere. I can put more nails in this wood paneling. Nobody can stop me.
Does he know who you are?
Peugeot?
Yeah.
I think so. I've met him twice now. I think I stand out, usually wherever I go.
A
Do
little
you
bit.
stand out that much at a symbolic world conference?
Yeah,
He
I was
stood
the
up
only
at one point.
I was the only Roman Catholic priest there.
Dang.
Whole mess of Orthodox priests and a couple of Anglicans, but I was the only Catholic.
And he was called out on stage by Father Stephen DeYoung.
Yeah. Well, I called him out first.
Yeah, but he said your name, so
Yeah.
on the stage.
Yep. Any day now, I'm going to become YouTube famous.
YouTube
Yeah.
famous.
Yeah.
Gonna go
And I'll have
viral.
my own Discord server. It'll be great.
Don't do it.
And monastery.
It's
No,
a
I
trap.
don't think you can start your own Discord server.
Digital monastery.
Don't you already have a Discord server?
Me?
No?
No.
I mean, maybe Mark's could be called Father Eric's, since
He
Mark is
hangs
part
out
of the
online.
since Mark is
Rebranded.
part of the Catholic circle.
Yeah, Mark's part of the Catholic faction.
Apparently. What? I can't even. I can't even.
Well, guess you're confirmed now.
Is that how that works? Thank you.
Coming into the church is just a formality at this point, Mark. I've already told you the 5 things. It's pretty easy. You can even pull it off.
I ain't doing any of that. Sounds like a plot.
Assigned Catholic by Vanderklay.
I said I know. Yeah, really, by the heathen of heathens. Yeah, I'll stand by my help. I'm being oppressed.
Oh my goodness.
Help! Help! I'm being oppressed.
Yes, being oppressed by the nasty old church, which is 100% a voluntary organization at this point.
Yeah.
Super oppressive, man. Just feel the oppression coming out of me.
You don't want that sweet YouTube money either. I'm only up a couple bucks so far with ad revenue. So
Yeah.
and that took like 2.5 years. So it takes a while.
Oh, yeah.
Well, better get started.
Well, I've heard, Mark, that you're going to enter the church right after Peterson does.
No worry. I'm pretty sure Peterson understands why he shouldn't do that. I think we're safe there.
Yeah.
I bet he's not going in. I hope not.
We'll probably get him on his deathbed.
We'll see. Probably, but
we get a fair number of them right before they go. It happens.
Sure.
We could also,
John Wayne
I
right
feel
before
like
he
we'll
went.
find out when he dies that he's secretly been Catholic for the past like 10 years.
No.
Like from now?
Did you hear it?
Like before he died. Like from whatever time it is.
No. I don't think so. Did you hear him talk to McGilchrist? That was an interesting talk.
No, I need to check that one out. I've been busy, like, I don't know, with other things.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not like you just bought a house or anything, Emma. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it wasn't even that. That's the funny part.
That
I
is funny,
visited friends Well, I went to a conference in St. Louis, a classics conference, and I presented a paper.
Oh,
And I have friends in St. Louis, so I stayed with them and I was hanging out with them, and it was a lovely weekend.
Have you ever gotten to the basilica there?
I've not. I went to the oratory of Saints Gregory and Augustine today.
That sounds pretty cool. I'll let it go.
It was pretty cool. Did you see the book I dropped in Mark's Discord? The link?
oh yeah, that
Yeah,
was great.
the priest who gave the homily there.
Oh,
What
really?
channel did
Oh,
you
okay.
drop in?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
gave the homily today. He's a former Episcopalian.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to hear your take on Miguel Christian Peterson, because the whole time, especially at the end, I was like, "You guys are so close." Like I've got a
Oh,
video for you
no.
to watch that'll explain all of this in a way better way that'll just make sense to you. I don't think Peterson's ever gonna watch my video though. Too bad. So close. So close.
1, 2.
Little
Attacking your
language.
keyboard,
Okay.
Andrew.
Little language
yeah.
problem. But other than that, it was a really good talk. Yeah,
Okay.
facets. That
I
threw
want-
me.
I want to do more with Miguel Christ, so I will probably check it out soon.
I really enjoyed The Master and His Emissary. I found that a very enlightening book.
We were talking
really
about
want
that
to-
today. The problem is the elephant is the frame, but you're outside and on top of it.
Yeah,
Which
my
is wrong.
question.
He's not the elephant in the rider, though. He's the master of the emissary. He doesn't use the elephant and rider framing, I don't think.
Oh, that's true.
That's
But
somebody else who does it.
Yeah, but it's the same sort of problem in Master and Emissary, where they're not accounting for framing at all, right?
I still think it's a really useful thing to tell somebody, hey, the talking, chattering part of you isn't actually the smartest part of you. The part of you that's
sure.
the part of you that's smarter and like actually is connected, actually is connected to reality and not playing in a virtualized sandbox is the right brain. And it doesn't have a big vocabulary. It doesn't talk very much. It doesn't articulate very much, but it knows things. And it's like it's perfect with the now legendary navigating patterns model, right? Because that's where the continuous processing is.
Right.
On the right.
Well, that was right. They described continuous. That was the Peter Stuck. He describes continuous processing, doesn't use the language. I'm like, dude, you're so close. You're so close to having this all worked out. Like, just a little change in a couple of words, and then a little more thought, maybe 10, 20 minutes, you'll get it. It's real easy.
I feel like if you look in a baby's face, you realize that the smart part of you isn't the talking part.
Depends on how old. We're talking like 3 months, because when they're like newborns, their eyes don't even work.
No, like 8 to 12 months. Like before they're able to talk, but when they're like clearly figuring things out and they're just watching everything you do so closely. Yeah. Like my niece turns 1 today and she got her first cupcake.
There you go.
And the pictures of her at her birthday party are so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Studying the cupcake and then smashing it to pieces and getting most of it on her face.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Just
perfect.
Processing everything, but absolutely not able to make words about it at all.
Right. Right. Well, and the number of people that confuse thought and words, we were going over this today on the Discord server, is unbelievable. And I'm like, no, that's because when you communicate your thoughts, you put them into words, but it should be obvious that you think before you speak. Therefore, it can't be the words. But no one can work that out. And I'm like, what did we do when we quote educated these poor people? And like, I don't understand. Oh, Emma, I did that education video, by the way. You haven't commented on it. I'm very upset.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to...
Crushed.
I know. I'm trying to balance a lot of things. I'll have to check that one out.
It's okay. I did it for you. So I'm like, should you even watch it? What the hell?
Okay, well, I think you two can work that out someplace else, not on our live stream
Oh my
here.
goodness, 9:30 already.
It is 9:30 already, and we're talking about reordering our loves here. And have you tried reordering your loves? And I'm going to take care of my body by allowing it to rest. And if you're in a similar time zone to me, I encourage you to do the same. So, good night, and God bless you all.
Actually, in that
Good
earlier
night.
time zone.